Hi guys, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Yoke. In this video I'm going to show you how to cut and sew this asymmetric bustier with yoke. If this is something you're interested in learning, stick around and watch this video to the end because it's going to be very explanatory and detailed. And if you are seeing me for the first time and you haven't subscribed yet to my channel, please do want to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and also feel free to leave your questions or your comments in the comment section. Now let's get started, guys. So these are my measurements: the bust measurements, the waist, the bust points, the under bust, the across back measurements, the armhole circumference, the front waistline, and then the back waistline. So the first thing you're going to do is to make sure your pattern paper is on fold. So I have this pattern paper like this, it is folded into two, and this other side where I'm going to be taking my measurement from is folded, then the other side is open. Now I'm going to take my chest line measurement, which is my armhole divided by 2, then I'll mark it and mark my bust point, the under bust, and then the front waistline. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side and connect together. So this is the shoulder line, the chest line, the bust point, the under bust, and then the front waistline. Now on the shoulder line, I'll take my across back measurement divided by 2, then I'll do the same thing on the chest line and connect together. Now I'm going to come down by 1 inch on the shoulder line, and then whatever I have left, I'm going to mark that point. Then from that point, I'm going to take in 0.75. Now on the chest line, I'm going to take my bust measurements divided by 4 and mark it. And I'm going to use my French curve to create the armhole using those 3 points. Now I'll take my neckline measurements. I'll be using 3.5 inches for the neck width, and I'll be using 3 inches for the neck depth. Then I'm going to connect with a curve. Then after connecting that, I'm going to connect my shoulder slants. Now I'm going to take my bust span measurement on the chest line down to the waistline. So that is the nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2. So I'll take it on the chest line and also take it on the front waistline. Then I'll connect together. So I'm going to label this part as my center front and the other side as my side front. Now towards the center front, I'm going to come in by 0.5, while towards the side front, I'll go out by 1.5. So I'm going to do the same thing on the under bust and the front waistline, then I'll connect together. Then I'll use my curve to connect from the under bust to the bust point. Now I'm going to divide whatever I have on the shoulder slant by 2 so that I can take the shoulder dart. So on the shoulder slant there, I'm dividing that by 2, I'm marking that point and then connecting it into the bust points. So I already have my bust measurement here divided by 4. Then I'm going to take my waist measurement divided by 4 also and mark it. Then whatever I have there, I have about 2 inches. I'm going to replace it on that part after the waist measurement. Then I'm going to connect from the chest line down to the waistline. Now I have my front waistline as 16 and my back waistline as 14. So the difference between the two is 2 inches. So I'm going to mark it at that point and then I'm going to connect it to my bust points. So I'm going to proceed to cut out my waistline area, the armhole, the shoulder slant, and then the neckline. I'm going to leave the side for now. Now after cutting those parts out, I'm going to open the paper, the pattern paper out like this so that we can draw out our asymmetric yoke. So from that part, I'm going to be taking the half of the shoulder there. So what I have there is still what I'll be using as the half. Then on the other side of the armhole, I'm going to come down by 5 inches. So it depends on how deep you want the yoke to be. So for me, I'm going to just leave it at 5 inches. I'm going to use my curve to connect from that point down to the 5 inches that I came down by. So that is going to be the yoke. Now that I have the yoke, I'm going to proceed to cut out the yoke. Now I'm going to close it up and come back to this. So I'm going to cut out this side and cut out the other side so that I'll be able to close up the side dart. So I'm going to cut this part out and stop a little bit before the bust point, then go to the side and also cut it, stop a little bit before the bust point so that I can close up the side darts. So I'm going to close it up on each side using my masking tape. So I'll do it on this side. Whatever I'm doing here, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So after doing that, I'll close it up again and then draw out a new line. And then I'm going to proceed to cut out the rest. So this is how the front pattern looks like after cutting. Now let's move on to the back pattern. I'm going to measure out my zip allowance, which is 1 inch, and then I'm going to connect together. Then I'll measure out my chest line and then my back waistline. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side and then connect together. So I have this as the shoulder line, the chest line, and then the back waistline, and this part as my center back line. Now on the shoulder line from the center back line, I'm going to take my across back measurement divided by 2. I'm going to do the same thing on the chest line, and then I'll connect together. Now on the shoulder line, I'll come down by 1 inch, and whatever I have left, I'll divide by 2 and mark that point. Now from that point, I'm going to come in by 0.5 inches. Now on the chest line from the center back line, that point, I'm going to take the chest line, the bust measurement divided by 4, and I'm going to connect the 3 points together with my French curve. Then I'm going to take my neckline measurements. I'm going to use the same 3.5 inches I used at the front for the neck width, then 1 inch for the neck depth. Then I'm going to connect to my French curve and also connect my shoulder slants. Now from that center back line, from that point, I'm going to go in by 1 inch on the waist line, and I'm going to connect it into the chest line. So that's going to be the new zip allowance. And then from that new point, I'm going to take my waistline measurement plus 1 inch for that. I'm going to divide my waistline by 4 and add 1 inch for that. And I'm going to connect from the chest line to the waistline. Now I'll be measuring out the dart from the original line, that's the center back line. I'm going to be using the same 3.5 inches I used at the front. I'll mark it there and take in 0.5 inches on both sides. Then on the chest line, I'm also going to mark the 3.5, and I'm going to connect them together. So this part here, as I said, is the new zip allowance. So I'm going to proceed to cut it out now. So guys, this is what I have as the front pattern and the back pattern of the asymmetric bustier with yoke. Now I'm going to proceed to cut it out on my fabric and add all the necessary allowances. So this is it on my fabric. I cut out both fabric and the lining, then I added all the necessary allowances on it. So this is the front pattern. You make sure when you're cutting out the front pattern, you're cutting out on the same face of the fabric. So I used the right side of the fabric for these 3 parts, so you make sure you cut out on the same face. And I added all the necessary allowances to it. I added 1.5 inches at the side and ½ inch round on the parts that we are going to sew together. Then at the other side, I added 1.5 inches as the allowance. So I did the same thing for the yoke. I added ½ inch round for the allowance of the yoke. Then I didn't cut out lining for this yoke. I only cut out a plain fabric for it. Now for the back pattern, I also cut out the fabric and the lining for it. Then for the zip allowance, I didn't bother to add anything because we already have that as the allowance. Then at the side, I added 1.5 inches. Then round, I added 0.5 inches. To be able to sew out the dart easily, I'm going to notch out this part. Then I'm going to use my needle and thread to demarcate where the dart is going to be. So by the time you want to sew this on your machine, you fold it like this and look for locate the notched part. Then from the notched part, you're going to sew it down and make it taper into the part where you have the thread. Now I'm going to cut out the wording, that is the breast part I'm going to be using for this bustier. So I'm just going to come down by ½ inch here so that it's not going to interfere with the neckline area. So at this side too, I'll come down by ½ inch, and then I'm going to just trace it, make it straight, just draw out a straight line to that area. So whatever you are doing for this part, make sure that you are cutting everything should align together from the sides and the midpoint. So I'm also going to do the same thing there and trace out the parts. Then I'm going to cut out the wording and then add 0.5 inches as the allowance at the side I'll be sewing. So this is what I have. Then I'm going to join this to the fabric. I'm going to use my iron to iron into the fabric. So this is what I have after ironing together. You can see that it is sticking to the fabric. Then I'm going to join the sides together. I'm going to join those sides together by 0.5 inches. Now whatever I do for the fabric, I'm also going to do for the lining. So this is it after joining the front part of the bustier together. Now I'll go ahead to attach the yoke to it. So I'll start pinning the yoke to the fabric from the armhole side. So I'm going to pin one of this armhole and pin the other side so that it's going to be equal at the end of the day. So this is how the yoke looks like after sewing. You can see the front and you can also see the back. Now for the neckline area of the yoke, I'm going to use my bias tape to turn over that part. So this is what I have after turning over the neckline area of the yoke. Now next thing I'm going to do is to add my lining to this yoke. So you know the upper part of the yoke doesn't have lining, so I'm going to use this lining to cover up that part that I've sewn there. So it's going to serve as the cover up for it. So what I'm going to do is to attach it this way. and sew it. So you make sure you sew it in a way that by the time you are done sewing, by the time you cover it up to the other side, the bustier is going to come out neat. So that is what I'm trying to do here. So this is it after sewing. So you make sure you sew directly on the side that you sewed the yoke on. So this is it after sewing. You can see how it looks like at the back, and then you can see how the front also looks like. So I'm going to move on to the back pattern. I already worked on the darts for the back pattern. So what I want to do now is to sew the 0.5 inches on the neckline. So I'm going to do that, and then this is what I have after sewing the neckline. Then I'm going to proceed to join the shoulders together and then join the sides together. So guys, this is it after joining the shoulders and the sides together. So you can proceed to fix in whatever you want to fix in here. Maybe it is a gown or it is a top. So this is the stage where you can fix in every other thing you want to do. So this is how the back looks like, and then you can see how the front looks like. So guys, this is it for this tutorial, and this is the end of this video. I'm going to see you guys in my next video and my next tutorial. Thank you for watching. Bye.